So technically the title of this video is a lie, because if I forgot about these dudes, I wouldn't mention them in a video at all. But it's YouTube clickbait, you know how it goes. 5 lottery picks that I forgot about. The first one is Jerome Robinson, who was selected right next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the Clippers. Now he's on the Wizards. I don't really remember that happening. He played about 13 games for the Wizards. The thing about Jerome Robinson is whenever I look at random highlights of him, he seems kind of okay, like a guy who can make a shot and also do a little bit off the dribble. He was a good shooter in college as well. He shot high 30s on a solid 5 or 6 attempts from 3 a game in his last year at Boston College. And he also averaged 20 points. So you'd think he'd be a guy who could at least make some shots in the NBA, and up to this point it hasn't happened. I mean, he hasn't really made many of his threes, and maybe it's just a matter of the 2019 Clippers were a little too loaded for Robinson to really get minutes, but it just hasn't happened. He's 6'4", 190. Weirdly enough, I think he was listed at 6'7" while he was in college, so I don't know how that happened. But I don't know. Jerome Robinson, you'd think he'd be a guy who could do a little bit of everything offensively. He's also 23, usually an older rookie. I mean, he was in college for 3 years. Usually a guy like that is more ready to go right when he gets to the NBA, even if he's just a role player. But it just hasn't happened so far for Jerome Robinson. Maybe it could happen in Washington. I mean, you could simply space the floor out for John Wall when he comes back and Bradley Beal, and maybe that's enough. So if we move on to the next guy, someone who I did kind of remember, he was sort of the reason I even thought of this video, Noah Vonleh, a big who has not done much in the NBA. I remember when he was drafted, he was thought of as a guy who could make shots, whether it's from 3 or mid-range or whatever. I mean, he has had some life from mid-range, but I wouldn't say teams are really viewing his jump shot as a threat. An interesting thing, though, is I also feel like teams don't know what position he really should play. He's played mainly power forward. He's played a little bit of center. To me, he might just be best at center, because then he'd just be the lone big guy and he wouldn't be messing up the spacing, unless his jump shot is real. But, at this point, he's played 330 games and he hasn't even averaged 1 3-point attempt a game. He's actually at 0.9 threes attempted, and his percentage is not good. His free throws aren't good, so, I mean, if the shooting is there, it certainly hasn't shown itself yet. His best stretch of games probably came with the Knicks. He averaged 8 points and 8 rebounds, almost 2 offensive boards a game. That's why I kind of believe he should be more of a center, He's a strong guy. He's listed at basically 260 at 6'10". And he just seems like he's kind of meant for that style of play, which is not very glamorous, and you might bounce around a few teams, but it's an NBA career at least, you know what I mean? Now, he's an unrestricted free agent after this season. He's under contract right now with the Nuggets. Maybe they would keep him because Plumlee is going to be off their books, and maybe they'd keep Vonleh as a cheaper option for that position. I don't know. The next one is going to be a pick that the Sacramento Kings made. The 13th pick in 2016, Georgios Papagiannis. Because apparently the G is pronounced like a Y, according to Basketball Reference. He played in the 2017/18 season. A total of 17 games, 1 game for the Blazers, 16 for the Kings. He did basically nothing in the NBA. He's a 7-footer. And it seems like this is basically a non-lottery pick for the Kings. They had a lottery pick, and then they just immediately struck out with it. If I look at guys who were drafted after Papagiannis, there's Denzel Valentine, Juan Hernangomez, Malik Beasley, Karis LeVert, so there were definitely a few other places that Sacramento could have gone. I really don't have a strong take on Papagiannis because he really didn't do anything in the NBA. He played 22 games his rookie season. He was basically a non-NBA player the moment he showed up, and he's probably playing overseas now, and maybe he'll come back, maybe he won't. But if you ever wanted to think to yourself, why is it the Sacramento Kings seem to always shoot themselves in the foot. Well, it's picks like that one. If we go on to a guy who Chicago Bulls fans will definitely remember, Cameron Payne. The Bulls traded more stuff than they ever should have considered trading for him. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think like a decent second-round pick ended up moving or something. You know, the Bulls really believed for some reason that Cameron Payne was some sort of a guy who could help them or whatever. You know, more than just be an okay backup point guard. And never really happened. I mean, for what it's worth, like, the best thing Cameron Payne could do is he was an okay three-point shooter in 25 games for the Bulls. So there's that, I guess. He apparently played for the Cavaliers last season. He is currently in the G League at 25 years old. The 14th pick in the 2015 draft. I should have probably mentioned who actually picked him. I know the Bulls are like the team that has become known for Cameron Payne, but you know, OKC did select him, so that's their mistake as well. Let's see, drafted right after Cameron Payne, Kelly Oubre. That would have definitely been a better pick. Terry Rozier. And then it's, it's up and down. There's Jerry and Grant, who could have been something. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson could have been something for OKC. So there were definitely some better options. If we take a look at Cameron Payne's G League stats, this season for whoever the Texas team is, he averaged 23 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, shot 37% on 8 threes a game. So, I mean, is that a good sign? Could just be one of those cases of you're too good for the G League, you're not good enough for the NBA. But, I mean, if you sent him down to the G League and he didn't put up big stats, then that would be really alarming. So perhaps this is a sign that there is still something there, even if it is just that he can make an open three. But, you know, assuming you can do that and run a competent enough pick and roll as a point guard and not be a disaster defensively against second units, you can still get a spot in the league. So we'll see if Cameron Payne can get back in the NBA like that. And then finally, the guy who maybe had the highest ceiling out of these 5 players that I'm talking about, Shabazz Muhammad, who was drafted by the Wolves. And I remember, I think it was right around when Tibbs became the coach, Shabazz's situation just kind of fell off. I mean, he was a shoot-first guy. He loved to shoot. I mean, in his second season with the Wolves, by the way, they drafted him with the 14th pick in 2013. Second season, he averaged 13 points. He shot 10 times a game. They were basically all two-pointers. I remember he liked to post up. I could be totally wrong on that one, but I feel like I'm onto something there. He did kind of like an Adrian Dantley sort of thing as a guard. And even in 2013/14, I think we were like, do we really want a wing posting up all day? And then once Tibbs showed up, if I've got my years correct, Shabazz basically had no chance, because in terms of defense and making the right play and all that stuff, he didn't have it. Now, I feel like if he would be a little better at shooting threes, which he actually shot less of as his career went on, but if he would attempt more threes and was content with just kind of fitting in on a team, then perhaps he could still make an NBA roster. But last time he played was 2017/2018, so he might just be done. Wikipedia tells me that he's currently playing in the CBA. It's cool. Good for him. He's also like 27, so the chances of him coming back to the NBA, he would be 28 when he'd really have a chance to come back. That is a little old. It's not too old if you are a contribute at the moment you get there type of guy. You know, like a PJ Tucker sort of situation. But again, is Shabazz really going to be content with that? I have to imagine he can probably get more shots in the CBA. Yeah, looking at it right now, in 2018-19, Shabazz averaged 30 and 11. It's crazy to think how good some NBA players are, where you see them in the league and they're like not that good, and it looks like they don't know how to play basketball. And then it's like Cameron Payne goes to the G League and he dominates. Shabazz goes to CBA and he dominates. And I I mean, we've seen those things of JR averaging like 35 over there. So yeah, 5 forgotten lottery picks. Noah Vonleh, Jerome Robinson, Yanis, Cameron Payne, and Shabazz Muhammad.